following the path as it leads towards the darkness in the north. Weary strangers' faces show their sympathy. They've seen that hope before. And if you want to stay for a little bit, rest your aching limbs for a little bit. Before you, the night is beckoning, and you know you can't delay. You hear the night birds calling you, but you can't touch the restless sky. Close your aching eyes beyond your name. Mist is swelling, creatures crawling. Hear the roar get louder in your ears. You know the folly was your own, but the force behind can't conquer all your fears. And if you want to stay for a little bit, rest your aching limbs for a little bit. Before you, the night is beckoning, and you know you can't delay. You hear the night birds calling you, but you can't touch the restless sky. Close your aching eyes beyond your name. Throw your thoughts back many years to the time when there was life in every morning. Perhaps a day will come when the nights will be as on that morning. And if you want to stay for a little bit, rest your aching limbs for a little bit. Before you, the night is beckoning, and you know you can't delay. You hear the night birds calling you, but you can't touch the restless sky. Close your aching eyes beyond your name. Rest your weary head beyond your way. We are tuned in to Path Notes. That song is called The Narrow Way. It was written by David Gilmour, lead singer and guitar player of Pink Floyd. It's on the Ummagumma, however you pronounce it, album. This episode is called The Narrow Way. Did I say the name of the show is Path Notes? So it's still under the fitness and consciousness if people are Googling it. If you look up Path Notes of the Mystic, it should come up that way also, those specific shows. So The Narrow Way, I think I'll get into that in just a little bit more of what I'm meaning by that. First, what's in a name? So, does it matter what I call the show? Well, yeah, fitness and consciousness, that talks about tells us what the show's about. But it still has fitness at the front, which maybe it sounds like we're talking about fitness most of the time. And consciousness, that can be almost anything, which was the intent. I have a friend of mine, and she was born in America. Her parents were Hare Krishna devotees, and she's had a Sanskrit name since birth. She has, I don't think I'll say her name. I don't think she would care, but I'm not going to. But so she has her an English name that's on her birth certificate and everything. And then she has her spiritual name, which is a Sanskrit name. And when I'd been around her somewhat recently, she was introducing herself as her English name. And when I'd hear her talk on the phone, and maybe it would depend on who she was talking to, but she was usually using her English name. And so I'd asked her before what name. I've known her for several years, you could say. We originally kind of met several years ago. And I asked her, what name do you want me to use? And she said her Sanskrit name. But as time kept going and I see her use her English name, She sent me a message the other day, and it was like, "Hi, Ryan," blah blah blah, and then I sent her a message back, "Hi." I gave her English name, and then went on, blah blah blah, and then she sends me a message back. "You can call me by her Sanskrit name." I was like, "Oh, okay. I've just heard you introducing yourself as your English name, and I thought maybe you preferred that now." She was going through this time where it was like, okay, well, who is she? Is she the Sanskrit name, or is she the English name? So she's going through her life kind of like in these two different worlds, these two different people. And she struggled with that a little bit. And I thought she was, kind of like made a decision to drop it, but she didn't. So I guess it's just like the cool people that she tells her Sanskrit name to, that wants her to be, that she wants to address her that way. One of the people like the initiates, I mean, I'm not a Hare Krishna, but I know a little bit about it, you could say. But what I mean by the initiate is more like just somebody that understands it's not going to give her a hard time about this Sanskrit name. And so actually the first two yoga books I got when I was 15 years old, they were Hare Krishna books. And so that was how I started to learn about yoga. I don't know if I heard about yoga before then or not. We're talking about 1994 at a Grateful Dead concert. So I was 15, and this guy walks up with a box of books and asks if I want one. And I ended up picking two, and it was just by donation. I think I paid $5 each for the science of self-realization and the journey of self-discovery. But anyways, so what's in a name? Which one is she? If you say one of those names, she'll probably turn around. You see, which part of yourself? Maybe we all kind of do this in a way, right? Where, maybe we only use the one name, but when we're talking to one group of friends, maybe this is the self that they get. Maybe we have another group of friends that they get a different self, or maybe at work we're a completely different person. I've heard people say that, like a guy that I work with. If you listen to the show, you probably already know, but I have my own gym, strength and conditioning instructor, and but I also work at a factory from 5 in the morning until 1 p.m. And then I go to the gym and see clients in the afternoons and evenings. But one of the guys at the factory was said something like, I'm a completely different guy outside of work. And he's a cool guy. We talk about music and stuff. And I won't get into what he was talking about exactly. I think it had something to do with his way he gets frustrated at work and whatever, something like that. But so it's like, what's in a name? So as I'm going through this like transition of, am I going to change the name of the show and start over after 15 months of, no longer than that. However long it's been, 16 months, 17, wow, almost a year and a half of doing the show. But I don't think I will. Just a little bit ago, I'm going to be starting a Roku channel. And it looks like I'm just going to call it Fitness and Consciousness. I already got the channel. It's not published yet as of today. It's not. hopefully do that in the next couple weeks. I'm going to have the podcast on it, and we'll see what else. But I'm working on, it'll be a channel that you can find on Roku. If you do have a Roku now, you can still find the show on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify, and there's ways of finding the show if you're just hooked up to your Roku, but I mean an actual Roku channel. Anyways, the name, like, should I call it Path Notes of the Mystic? Path Notes of the Skeptical Mystic was the first thing I was thinking of. And I was like, well, I think we can drop skeptical, because the nature of the mystic is to pursue the truth. So it's skeptical, I think, is redundant maybe. And then, so do I even need mystic on there? And so it's not like I go around calling myself a mystic. If you read the definition of mystic, somebody's searching for the truth. I suppose I fit into that. And I'm not trying to play a character on this show. This is me. I speak. I don't edit. There's hundreds of hours of video, audio, what you see is me. What you hear is me. So then I want to just call it Path Notes. We'll see how it goes. But as of now, we'll see how it goes. So the narrow way. So as we go on these spiritual paths, if we have these high levels of expectations for ourselves, like we want to pursue these great truths, what do we do? And the path gets more narrow as it goes. And so yesterday I went to the cemetery that I go to quite a bit. It's a huge cemetery. I'm going to pause for a second. My sage bundle is going out of control. Okay. Yeah, I burn sage as part of my ritual to prepare for the show, and sometimes I can't keep it lit without it going too crazy, and it was burning just like nice and slow and even, and then it started getting to be too much. Anyways, so yesterday I go to the cemetery, and it's like the 12th biggest cemetery in the country. It's huge. There's woods, there's graves, and there's the woods. It's not, there's no people trails through the woods. There is like this one like real small section that has like people buried in this wooded spot, and there's like gravel. There's a gravel path that kind of winds through this small section. But there's quite a bit of woods there, and there's no trails for people. So when I got there yesterday, I go and I start walking through the woods, and I'm following animal trails. So I'm seeing deer tracks, and this is a place I usually see quite a few deer. I did see, I think at least a couple there yesterday. Maybe just one as I was going into this part. And it's pretty hot. I'm in Indianapolis. It's like 90 something, but whatever. So I normally will walk barefoot through the cemetery, but when I start to like walk through the woods, if there's not like a decent enough trail, I had my Vibram 5 fingers with me. So I put my Vibrams on and I'm walking, and sometimes I'm just taking like one step look around for maybe 30 seconds, just listen, look around, take another couple steps, listen, look around. And sometimes I would get to these different parts. This is a deer trail. This is not, people don't walk back there. Or if there are, it's not very many. And so sometimes there would be like a part that was like, it was just like nothing but like obstacles. There's limbs, and there's a spider web, and there's just no real great way for some guy to just walk straight through without any problem. So sometimes I would get to a part like that, and I would just stop, and I'm looking around. And then sometimes after a short time, the path just kind of opens up. Like, oh, I can go this way. No problem. Yeah, I'm like ducking and almost like kind of like duck walking through some of these different parts, and walking real hunched over and stuff through some areas. And I'd stop. And so that's why I ended up calling this show The Narrow Way. I don't think I've called another show The Narrow Way. I think I've read the song, that Pink Floyd song. I might double check. If I have named it something else, then I don't know, whatever. But I was looking, because I go on like what I used to call them like mini vision quest. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not really quite fair to call them mini vision quest. It's just a vision quest. Yeah, maybe I'm not like out by myself fasting in the wilderness for 4 days or 7 days or a week or 10 days or whatever. Maybe I'm just out for a few hours in the cemetery, walking around in the woods, walking around up in a tree. But the things will like come to me, because I was working on the show in my mind, and to do that, oftentimes I'll like just open up. Like, okay, well, what's the show going to be? I might have an idea, but where am I going to go? So when I see, like, if I'm just walking like a regular walking speed, 4 miles an hour, I'm going to be spider webs in my face and wiping that off, and I'm walking, tripping over this, and I'd be really loud and noisy and scratched up by thorns, and just as I'm as clumsily like a big elephant going through the woods. But when you just take your time, take one step, look around, 30 seconds later, oh, okay, I can go this way. And I didn't have a particular direction that I was trying to go. It was just deeper into these woods. That's all. So I didn't really care if it took me a long time to get a short distance. I was there to take in and observe and just be there. Just be there. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. There's like a saying in martial arts, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so that's kind of how this was too. It was like, okay, I'm just going to go this way. And then there's my metaphor for other parts of life. See? So I could have just charged through there, could have got a tank, plow through there. Or plow through there like a tank, which is how a lot of people go through woods. Maybe it's how they go through their whole life, right? Just plow through it like a tank. And although different parts of the woods might look a little different, like once you're in there, You're in there. So whatever you're looking for, maybe you don't have to like keep going, right? So I wasn't like trying to take a hike for exercise or something like that. I was there to. I was hoping I would see some animals, and saw some woodpeckers and deer and some squirrels. So I think that's you following me on that? Maybe we don't have to keep like charging ahead. We need to just sit there and observe and let these uh, the current situation be absorbed. Enjoy the moment. Like be here now. Ram Dass, right? And almost every other guru there is. Sometimes, I was watching. I was watching Joe Rogan podcast. I was watching like I think one of the latest ones with Duncan Trussell, and I think I fell asleep, and then so like the autoplay, somebody else came on, and I can't remember the guy's name right now. I wish I could think of it, but when I wake up, they're talking about like perseverance and like when Joe Rogan started his podcast, he started. He didn't start it as a business. He started off as like just something fun to do with his friends. It took him years to be profitable, and he's talking to this guy. Oh, I wish I could remember his name. And so like Joe is somebody that's a really determined guy. He was a Taekwondo champion when he was a teenager, and then he's works on his comedy. I think he has a pretty high level of comedy. It's smart comedy. It's not just like crude humor stuff. It's very well thought out, almost like a spiritual kind of comedy without being. It's a conscious kind of comedy. Conscious comedy. Anyways, but the guy he was talking to, they just about like the perseverance and not giving up, and like maybe who to help out, and but he was talking about like the running back, playing in a football game. Like he gets the ball, he's charging forward. So maybe he runs into five other guys and he's charging forward. Maybe he's right behind his own players and can't break through. But he's still hitting and he's still pushing. And sometimes there's not a hole. Sometimes the play in. Sometimes he goes back a few yards. So does the next time, does he just not worry about pushing so hard? Oh, I'm just going to take it easy this time. No, next time he gets out there and he's pushing and he's pushing and pushing. Boom, a hole breaks open and he's gone. 50 yards, touchdown. Or whatever. Is every play a 50-yard touchdown? Nope. They don't happen all that often. I don't know how often. But compared to how many plays there are, it's not a high percentage thing to happen. But that running back, 100% of the time, he's charging. So when you have a business or when you're hoping something is going to work out, you have to be like that running back. You just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. When you get the ball, you're charging. And then, because if you don't, when the hole breaks open, you won't be able to go through it. So I like that one. Like that name. So I always have a whole bunch of books on my kitchen table, which is where I do this podcast from. I looked through several books from Solzhenitsyn, Hemingway, Walt Whitman. What else was I looking at? And then on my table and I didn't find anything I wanted to read. Or I might read some Solzhenitsyn later. But it's like I have all these books. And there's some that I like, that I read from somewhat often, like from the Prophet, Khalil Gibran. There was this, I'm part of this yoga group on Facebook. And I don't chime in very often. It gets, I think there's like 20,000 some members of it. And so like one post might get 200 comments. And you'll get people bickering back and forth about, whatever. Some of the stuff is really supportive and some of it is not. So there's been times when I would make a comment and then I would just erase it because I would get into this. I'm like checking it. Oh, what did that person say? I got returning this message. I get a notification. All right, I'm going to respond, try to explain what. And I was like, just delete. Just delete. Let's pretend I never even said that. And I don't try to ruffle any feathers. I wouldn't do that, would I? But someone put a message up, post up, asking. So she was doing, I don't know if it was Ashtanga yoga, what exactly the kind of yoga she was doing. I think that's what it was. And so she was doing it like every day for a year or something like that. And she thought she was doing good because she's doing all these different poses and she's getting more flexible. And then she got to the point where, like, my knees are hyper flexible. They're too flexible. That's not good. And so she thought she was doing like this high level spiritual, physical practice. And now she has injuries. So she was asking for people that are good. It's a common theme in this group. There's a lot of the teachers are waking up to maybe what is so-called traditional yoga is not really that healthy for the body. And so there's a lot of teachers that are doing better than what their predecessors did. I think that's natural. That's a good thing. It happens with everything, right? Sometimes we like to glorify the ancients because they were somehow like smarter and more spiritual than us, but not necessarily. So she was asking, like, who would be a good teacher that understands movement and biomechanics? And so people are given these different names. And so, okay, this is like my response was, when we can't find the teacher that we're looking for, maybe we should look in the mirror. So maybe you're the one. So I said to pick what you want to include, innovate, keep learning. And last I checked, like 4 people liked it, which in that group, that's not so bad for me. 4 likes or, whatever it is. Maybe she's the one. She followed the system. She saw the errors of the system. Now she knows better and is looking for something else. And there are a lot of good people to learn from. But if you're in that position, in whatever it is that you're practicing, maybe you're the one. Now, I heard Wim Hof say one time, he was like, we're the elders. Somebody's got to do it. And I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, that's pretty cool. I was like, there's your mission. Figure it out. There was a time I was going through, I was going to 2 or 3 yoga classes a day. I was going to a class in the morning. I was going to 2 classes at night. I was going almost every day. I started teaching martial arts at this studio. And this was like 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago or whatever it was. And the teacher who was supposed to be like the teacher's teacher, it was really weird the kind of pedestal some people would put him on. And when I first started going there, I was like, oh, this guy really knows his stuff. And then after some time, I was like, wait a second. What is this? This is, maybe this isn't what I had in my mind. It did not fit what I had in my mind because if you remember the first 2 yoga books that I got, were Hare Krishna books. So they're talking about yoga from a completely different thing. It's not up dog, down dog, triangle, this and that. It's karma, it's yoga, or it's bhakti, it's all the other kinds of yoga. But this guy was teacher's teacher. And a lot of teachers from around the city did go there to learn from him. And he told other people that I was going to be one of the best yoga teachers in the country. And I was told that. And then a little bit later on, he told me that also. He told people that I knew. My girlfriend at the time. And then some other teachers at that school. It's like, okay. Well, in a way that made sense, but at that moment I was thinking, I'm going to overhaul the whole system. If I'm going to be the best yoga, one of the best, he didn't say I was going to be the best. I think the words were one of the best. I don't want to exaggerate. But so if I'm going to be one of the best yoga teachers in the country, I'm overhauling this thing because there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is cool. The adjustments, for one, blows my mind. A lot of it is just stupid. So I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time, and the way he would torque on people would be inappropriate in a jiu-jitsu class. And so I'm looking at it, it's like, you're going to mess people's joints up. It's like you have no sensitivity. Like when you learn jiu-jitsu, you learn sensitivity. What it feels like, because that's all it is these adjustments in a way. So you're getting your shoulders torqued on and your elbows and your neck and your back and your knee and your hips, everything, spine, from literally head to toe. You're getting twisted and torqued and extended and flexed, but you develop a sensitivity. So over time, like if I'm working with somebody and I'm showing like a shoulder lock or something, and then you tap out when it's enough, but you get to where they don't have to tap. You already know, you can feel it, and it should be good for you. It should be good for the joints, not bad for the joints. It's like, this guy has no sensitivity whatsoever. He's clueless. But people think that he's some great being. Like, no. But anyways, I ended up stop and going. It was this whole thing. He turned out to be a creepo. He had a body work room, and he was creepy with some girls. And when I was trying to do something about it, the girls didn't want to do anything. It was a whole thing. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing. So I was going to be able to go through his yoga teacher training for free. And it would have taken over 1,000 hours to get a 500-hour certification. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, man, you can do this whole thing. I'll do it all for free. Because he wanted me to be a teacher at his school. So I just decided, no. I thought, well, as a trainer, I can do my own thing. I can call it yoga or not, which I chose not. Or I might say some of the stuff is yoga-like postures and body weight movements. And so I do that now. Sometimes if you just take a peek in the window, what am I doing? I'm like, oh, it looks like he's doing yoga. I'm like, yeah. But the more keen observer, when I'm doing a deadlift with a barbell, that's yoga too. And hopefully after I put the barbell down and I'm walking around, getting ready for my next set, that's yoga too. See what I mean? So to me, yoga isn't up, down, up, dog, down, dog, triangle, etc. So, but I'm always looking for like yoga classes. There's a place, I think it's a pretty good place. It's pretty close to me. I was going to a friend of mine's class. There was a time when we were dating, and something that I had learned, like through these different relationships, like this kind of like schools for the next one. A lot of times we hope the one that we're in will work. A lot of times, sometimes we don't. But like the woman that I met at that yoga class I was talking about, where I was going to go through that teacher training, we ended up together for 2 years, lived together. And one thing that I regret, I never went to one of her classes. And it was something that bothered her. I was usually working during that time, but I could have taken the time, but I didn't. And we went to other yoga classes together. We did a couple workshops together. We did some stuff like that. But one thing I regretted was never going to her class. And so at the time, And I was normally working, but I was driving a cab at that time, so I had a regular passenger that I picked up at the times of her classes, but so it would have been easy enough to every once in a while to say, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to get you tomorrow." So then, later on when I started seeing this other yoga instructor, it's like, I know not to make that mistake. So I was going to her classes. And it didn't work out. But I'm still friends, and we sometimes we make plans or like consider making plans, and for a while we haven't ended up following through with those plans. Like just last night, there was a Led Zeppelin tribute at the Vogue, and I asked her if she wanted to go to it like last week. It's like several days notice, and at first she was like, yeah, and then she's like, oh, well, actually I have to wake up really early the next morning, so I don't know if I want to be out that late. The concert probably would have ended at midnight. Like, she said she'd let me know. And so the concert came and went, and she didn't get back with me. And then there was this funny joke that I sent to her. It's kind of like I wasn't trying to make like a date or anything. It wasn't like under those terms. But anyways, so I see this joke that kind of reminded me of her because she likes there's kind of a little bit of a not like a dark joke, but just kind of like a mean joke, like and what it was like, I don't judge people by their race, and then it shows people that are like white and brown, and then it's like, I don't judge people by their sexual orientation. It shows like two blue people together, two pink people together, and then a blue and a pink together. And then it's like, no, I don't judge people by their like something else. It says, I hate everyone equally. Fuck you. And it shows a middle finger up. I thought it was funny. And so I sent it to her. She thought it was funny. And then she asked me if I went to the concert. And I was like, nah, I didn't make it. And we've done that. It's kind of a recurring theme, recurring pattern now. So what do we do with that? Some relationships we just kind of let fade away. Like there was a buddy of mine, we used to hang out quite a bit, or at least like somewhat regularly. And he trained with me, and then we hung out, and but like I ran into him. It's been several years ago now, at the Army Navy store. And I forget what I was looking for, like a pair of gloves or something. And I see him in there, and we're talking like, "Oh, hey man, what's up?" Like, "Oh, crazy running into you here. What are you doing?" So we exchanged numbers. I was like, "Yeah, give me a call. We'll do something." He's like, "Yeah, it'll be another 10 years, but you know how it is." Yeah. Sometimes we just let things fade away, don't we? So do you think, is there somebody that like that with you that like maybe fading away a little bit and they're hoping you'll take the initiative? Have you tried and then didn't get the response that you were hoping for? And is there somebody that like you were hoping they would take the initiative and maybe you send a message, it's been a while, and then, yeah, let's get together, and then fades off. And then a year goes by, 2 years goes by. So as we get older, I guess that's just the way a lot of these things go. Like some of these bonds that we make, there's still like something there. And then there's some things like Facebook and Instagram where we can make somewhat of a minimal effort, but it shows, hey, I haven't forgot about you. Hit like, you tag them. Oh, I think you'd like this. Happy birthday. And sometimes we're also busy. And like as I was saying before, I have my own business. I have all these things going on. I work at least 40 hour per week at a factory. I own a gym, clients, and stuff to get to, and like programming to think of. And at the gym, I need to be on. I need to really be there and pay attention. People pay a good amount of money, and I love being there. I don't dread. I never dread going, ever. But sometimes when I'm at the factory and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking, sometimes it does creep into my mind, man, my day's not going to end until 8 at night. So that can be kind of a drag, but it's not. And then just like keep on keeping on. But I don't talk about my gym very often at the factory. Like several people know that I have one. I'm a trainer, and the manager came up to me. I didn't even know he knew I was a trainer. We have a somewhat new trainer, or a somewhat new manager. And he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And it's pretty good. And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, how's the personal training going?" And that was my first clue that he knew. I was like, "Oh, it's cool." I was like, "I have my own gym, actually." He's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Oh, what size of space do you have, and how many clients do you have?" And talking to me about that. And so I was answering, and I was like, "It's like, yeah, I was gonna tell you, I was like, when we have to come in for overtime at 3 in the morning, and be there until 1, or have to come in on Saturdays at 3 in the morning. I was like, it really throws me off. And I was like, they put me on this. And he's like, yeah, that's why we put you on this other machine. This machine doesn't really get overtime. But I went in early last week. There was a couple guys on vacation, and so I was filling in for them, but getting there at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I was basically just, without complaining or anything, letting them know I don't want overtime. I was like, being over there is cool because that machine doesn't really get overtime. It's like, that's good for me. It's like, that's cool. He's like, yeah, that's why we put you over there. And then he's saying that he moved here from Georgia not too long ago, and at first he was the only one that moved, and his wife and kids stayed in Georgia until he, I guess, found a place instead of staying at the hotel and whatever process it took. But he came here before the rest of his family. He's like, man, I've missed. So we were talking about that. I was like, talking about how it threw the rest of my life off, basically, if I'm spend so much time in there. He's like, yeah, I know. He's like, I've missed every game. I've missed, and he's like, well, I've missed every football game. I've missed every this and that. And he's like, am I going to regret that in the future? He's like, probably. He's like, but that's, he's there to, like, he has a lot of weight on his shoulders there. He's the manager. He's the one that has to make sure this whole operation stays afloat. And I was talking about, like, yeah, there's like a whole world out there of stuff. And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, but also just can't shut the factory down either. I'm like, yeah. So if you're in a situation like that, like what I'm trying to do is, I'm not a lazy guy. I mean, but my goal is to get down to a 4-day work week. I'd like to work Monday through Thursday and have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, or like Friday and Saturday is kind of like makeup days. If somebody misses a session at the gym, Monday through Thursday, if they want a makeup day, Friday or Saturday, cool, fine. If somebody wants some like one-off thing on a Sunday, sure, fine. It's cool. I'm pretty open to that. But as like, I'm trying to like make this Roku channel, I'm trying to do all these things. We need to make sure, and other people, we need to make sure that we don't miss the other things that are important. Like when I'm talking about the path at the factory or a path at the cemetery, and I'm on an animal trail, not a people trail. So it seems like there's all these obstacles in the way. But then, I see. I can just go around this way. But you can also just stand right there and take in what's happening around you. So maybe you have like kids that are trying to talk to you. Maybe you have a wife. And maybe if you're looking for a relationship, maybe it's hard to get into the right one if you're just obsessing over all of this other stuff that you're doing. And I wonder sometimes if that hasn't thrown off some of maybe my relationships or potential ones. Because it's like when I start to talk about, I try not to just talk about the podcast and the gym and all these 50,000 things that I have going on, that a lot of them involve other people. But yeah, I can see how it could. But back to, I got off on that tangent. But talking about that, the person in that yoga group that was looking for the teacher, and I said, maybe you're the one. And so, as I was saying, I'm looking through all these different books, like all this Walt Whitman, it's great stuff. So I'm not trying to read anything about it on the show though, or I have some here that I might. It's like maybe I need to write my own stuff more, and that's kind of what this show is. I'll read other people's stuff. I read, and I do my talking, which is of course me. Get my own thoughts out, because I was watching someone. I don't want to say who it was, but he was quoting a lot from someone else. And I find this person very interesting, smart. And he was on a podcast with someone else, and they're both just like constantly quoting someone else. It was great. These quotes and these ideas were really cool. But sometimes they're like, just it, I'd rather hear them, their own minds, even if it's not as well thought out. Like, sure, thanks for mentioning these people. These are cool people for me to look into now. But what are your own ideas? What are you thinking about? And they do that too, but it's just a thing. This narrow path, this narrow way. So I found myself, it's like I spent some money, like did a little shopping that I don't normally do very often. Like I got, well, it's kind of like splurge and end up getting a massage and stuff. And it's like, I normally don't go to get massages, but it's like, oh, I just want to like get out, relax, not mess with my phone, not like stare at the TV, just kind of like get out and like just relax. And so that costs some money. And then, then they have to go to the grocery store, and it's like, I need a couple new pairs of shorts. I haven't bought any new shorts in a long time, so got a couple pairs of shorts, and just, so it's like, sometimes I feel guilty about spending money. And, there was this thing I shared on Facebook from a few years ago. It came up in my memories. This woman stole this boat, this like big ferry boat or something. And she was like drunk and yelling that she was Jack Sparrow. And a few years ago when I shared it the first time, so I'm going to hire her as my life coach. I need to learn how to get out and have some fun. And my comment on it this time when I shared it was, sometimes you just got to go get loose. And so I don't like drink, I don't smoke, I don't like party. And for the most part, I would say I really don't waste money. But sometimes it happens, and I'll like buy something I regret, spend money on something I regret, or it's not very often though. Maybe sometimes we have to like get out and get loose, or somebody does like have this like build up, and then they go out and they get drunk on the weekend. They're like, oh, I'm not doing that again for a long time. And then maybe it helps them to like refocus and get back on the path. Because there's this thing where the saying, I forget who said it, I'm quoting someone else, but you can take 10 steps off the path, but it only takes one step to get back on. I like that one. And so I go out and like, oh, I spent too much money. God, why did I do that? I didn't really need a massage. I have a foam roller. I could just like do my own thing and relax. And it's like, I mean, yeah, massage is good and it helps. But it's like I didn't have to spend that money. I could have put more on the credit card bill. I could have, it's my electric bill. Why did I spend my whole month's worth of electricity on a stupid 1 hour massage? Oh my God. I mean, I had the money. It's not putting me like, you know, I could justify it as, you see how I just rationalizing it there. Maybe it can be rationalized as, dude, you're waking up at 3 o'clock. You're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get to work at 3, work until 1, get home and have clients at either as early as like 2:30 until as late as maybe 6:30 or 7 or 8 even, or like 7 usually. And you're going to feel guilty about buying a massage. It's crazy. Well, in my mind, this narrow way does it allow that? And so it's like, when's the next time I'm going to get a massage? A long time. I don't know. Because then I get it and it's like, it was nice to like just, but yeah, whatever. But something that I wrote down to cover as part of this, like the letting loose. When I used to go to these Phish concerts, and I would talk to people. I remember talking to people. This is a long time ago. I probably haven't been to a Phish concert in about 20 years. But I remember being like surprised that these people had like very professional jobs, and it's like summer tour. So they're taking however much time off from their professional job to follow Phish, and they're doing uh, hallucinogens and smoking weed, hash, and they're doing all this stuff. And they're at this concert, and they're dancing around like hippies, and they're taking drugs, and they're doing all this stuff, and they're getting loose. And then, like, when it's all over, they're going to go back to that professional job. Like, maybe we kind of like just need that sometimes. Like, so if we're going to go blow off some steam, if we're going to get loose, how can we do that in a way that we don't end up regretting it? Like, and be like, oh, that felt good. Okay. That was cool. Yeah, it cost $100. Yeah, that concert cost $100. That massage cost $80, or that, uh, if somebody goes out and parties, or they're, oh, I can't believe I spent $100 at the bar, but damn, that was fun. It was so cool catching up with my friends. It was, like, and they look at that time, they don't regret it at all. Like, it was a great thing that happened. Like, even though they maybe like kind of wish they didn't spend so much money. And maybe it doesn't fit into their ideal daily self, but maybe we can like blow off some steam, and then like, okay, now I can focus on my goals again. And now I'm even like more focused because I know I'm going to be, no, I'm definitely not wasting money. So when this, when the next client pays up for the next month or two or whatever, I'm going to use that money. I'm going to put that into advertising. When this client pays, I'm going to pay a month ahead on the rent, and then I'm going to get there's things that we can do to kind of like help get refocused. I'm going to read something from Khalil Gibran. I have not chosen what it is yet, so I'll be just as surprised as you. Ah. Then said Almitra, "Speak to us of love." And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, "When love beckons to you, follow him. Though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold, you yield to him. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. I really like that part a lot. I'll repeat it. Into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. And when you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires, to melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. I've read that several times. One more. And the weaver said, "Speak to us of clothes." And he answered, "Your clothes conceal much of your beauty, yet they hide not the unbeautiful. And though you seek in garments the freedom of privacy, you may find in them a harness and a chain. What that you could meet the sun and the wind with more of your skin and less of your raiment. For the breath of life is in the sunlight, and the hand of life is in the wind. Some of you say, it is the north wind who has woven the clothes we wear. And I say, it was the north wind. But shame was his loom, and the softening of the sinews was his thread. And when his work was done, he laughed in the forest. Forget not that modesty is for a shield against the eye of the unclean. And when the unclean shall be no more, what were modesty but a fetter and a fouling of the mind? And forget not that the earth's delight to feel your bare feet, and to the winds long to play with your hair. Did I say one more? One more. And a youth said, "Speak to us of friendship." And he answered, saying, "Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field, which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside. For you come to him with your hunger, and you seek him for peace. When your friend speaks his mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the a. And when he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words, in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, you grieve not, for that which you love most in him may be clearer in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plain. And let there be no purpose in friendship save the deepening of the spirit. For love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery is not love, but a net cast forth, and only the unprofitable is caught. And let your best be for your friend, and if he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live. I like that part a lot. For what is your friend that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live. For it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in the sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. I had a friend call me yesterday. He was wondering if I was going to go to another buddy's to his campfire. Or he's had like a bonfire at this place that he was house sitting for. And I was thinking about going to my buddy. I asked that buddy if he wanted to go to the Led Zeppelin tribute that I was talking about earlier, because instead of waiting to get word back from the girl that I was talking about we were talking about going, I just asked somebody else. I just gave him one day notice. It was like Friday. And I sent him the message, hey, there's this Zeppelin tribute tomorrow. And he said, oh, I'm actually house sitting. I was planning on having a bonfire out there. Do you want to come out? And this was on Saturday. And I was like, I was just staying home to watch the UFC, but another buddy called me to ask if I was going out there. And I was talking to him, and he said he was thinking about me when he was out meditating in the woods. And he'll go out by the river, and he said he was meditating in the river, and he was thinking of me and this other buddy who's having the fire. And something happened when he was out there, and I guess like the waves took him. And he said there was a little while where he didn't think he was going to make it. And I was like, man, people drown in that fucking river. And So he was telling me the story. And this is a relatively young, 30 something, 33, just turned 33, and strong, healthy guy. And here he is, like meditating in the river, doing this practice. And he about got taken out by the river. I was like, man, I was like, that river does not care about you. and he's like, oh, I know. He's like, man, I felt like an ant. And it made him realize how small he really was and how vulnerable. 'Cause here's this like strong guy. Well, to river, you're not strong. It doesn't care about you. It will drown you. It will take you under. It'll knock your head against a rock. It doesn't care. So he made it out, and lesson learned. But we're all pretty vulnerable, aren't we? Because even though we might not be meditating in a river that takes us away, did you drive? Did you drive your car? Were you on the interstate? Did you accidentally run a red light? Did you about get hit by somebody else that did run the red light? Were you about to go because your light turned green and somebody else flew through the red light? I'm like, thank God you were paying attention. If you've been driving for very long, that's happened. How many times? Once? No. Twice? No. How old are you? If you're 40, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times? All these close calls where you can just be taken out like an ant being stepped on. Person walking by doesn't even notice. There's an ant walking on the concrete, smash. Didn't even notice. So if you're following this path, and you are, I don't think people listen to the show that aren't following some kind of path. Maybe just don't forget to stop. Don't worry about taking the next step. Just look around. Maybe the path you'll see a part open up. So sometimes all we see is obstacles to charge through. And undoubtedly you have obstacles to charge through. Maybe there's somebody that's hoping you'll call. Maybe call. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.